You are the festival survivors, I see. Very good. I feel like a survivor too, I have to tell you the truth. But it's been 2 magnificent days, just incredible amounts of people that have come to the church for the festival. And we're very grateful to over 400 of our parishioners who have killed themselves over the past few days to make this all happen. We're going to continue on today with our study of the Gospel of Matthew. And if you'll turn with me to the Bibles in your pews, we're going to page 28, when the 12 apostles were chosen. And it's very significant because of who they were, who they became, and what they were charged to do. Those are 3 very important questions: who they were, who they became, and what they were charged to do. And I'll read it for you. And when he had called his 12 disciples to him, he gave them power over unclean spirits, to cast them out, to heal all kinds of sickness and all kinds of disease. Now the names of the 12 apostles are these: first Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee and John his brother, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James the son of Alphaeus and Alphaeus, whose surname was Thaddaeus, Simon the Cananite, and Judas Iscariot, who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out and commanded them, saying, "Do not go to the way of the Gentiles, and do not enter the city of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as you go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out demons. Freely you received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor copper in your money belts, nor bag for your journey, nor 2 tunics, sandals, or staffs, for a worker is worthy of his food. Now whatever city or town you enter, inquire who is worthy, and stay there until you go out. And when you go into the household, greet it. If the household is worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it is not worthy, let your peace return to you. And whoever will not receive you nor hear your words, when you depart from the house of the city, shake off the dust from your feet. Assuredly, I say to you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom and Gomorrah in that day of the judgment than for that city." Now, if you look at this gospel, I think it bears a brief story before we talk about it. At times, our theology has been called basin theology. And people say, basin theology? What does that mean, basin theology? I'm just going to give you a little story. There was a priest once who said to one of his parishioners, the parishioner said to the priest, "You talk a lot about giving, but when it gets right down to it, all it comes to really is basin theology." Basin theology? What's that? The layman replied, "Remember what Pilate did when he had the chance to acquit Jesus? He called for a basin and washed his hands of the whole thing." And then it switches. "But Jesus, the night before his death, called for a basin and proceeded to wash the feet of his disciples." It all comes down to basin theology. Which one will you use? Now, the apostles clearly used basin theology. The Pharisees and those who wanted to be known because they were special and they had great places of honor and they liked being talked to, oh, Kiri, all these, wonderful things like that, they were in big trouble. Because Christ said, that's not what you're going to do. Watch what I'm going to do. And he took that basin and he bent down before his disciples and he washed their feet. The greatest joy for a priest, I have to be honest with you, is not festivals. That's a lot of work. And really, we don't know what kind of return we get from that work, if that makes sense to you. But yet, when we visit the hospitals and the sick, that's where we see Christ's ministry in motion. So the apostles, the disciples are called. And it's quite a group of people. When you look at them, you would say, why this one? Why that one? And you'll hear, as we talk about it, that he chose them in twos, because they were chosen in twos to go about. You know, there are many people in the world, I know that I've visited many in our parish, who are lonely because they're all alone. They don't have anyone to talk to, no one to interact with. And Christ knew that, you know, if I'm going to send them out there to do this very, very difficult work, I better put them in twos. Because when they go into the villages, the people are going to give them a rough time. Because you remember that Jesus did not go in to say, how are you? Can we have some coffee? And kulurakia. He said, we have work to do. What you have been teaching is wrong. What you have been teaching lacks a major, major part of it. And that is the salvation of the people. You're so interested in crossing your T's and dotting your I's that you're forgetting the essence of what's important, which is service and salvation. So let's go through it. He says that he gives them authority over unclean spirits to cast them out, to heal every disease and every infirmity. They were to do the same work that Jesus was doing. Saints Cosmas Oetolos, you know what he says? When an angel of the God walks on one side of the street and the priest walks on the other side, he asks the question, whose hand do you go kiss? Now, okay, the angels don't have hands, I understand that, okay? But Cosmas Oetolos knew what he was talking about. He said, whose hand do you kiss? People said, I don't know. He said, go to the priest. Why do you go to the priest? Because the priest is the only one who can make bread and wine become the body and blood of Christ. He's the only one that can give you that ultimate gift, which is Holy Communion. The same work, that sacred work of the apostles is important because it sets the stage for everyone else that's going to come along after them. They are the examples. They're the ones who go into the villages and have tough times. People said, get out of here. We don't want you. What are you doing here? Why are you here to shake everything up? We like it the way it is. You might like it the way it is, but it's not right what you're doing. So he starts to shake the entire Hebrew and Jewish community. The foundation is completely shaken because now what they said is not happening. It actually shook society itself at the time. Let's go through the apostles as they are called. Simon, who is called Peter, is called first, for he was the leader of the apostles. The name Peter translates from the Aramaic kepha, which means a rock. That's why you hear all the time Peter and the rock. You hear that, right? The nickname alludes to Simon's rock-like, though, fidelity, his stubbornness. Peter was very stubborn. You don't eat Peters? Anybody don't eat Peters? Panayotis? Very stubborn. Are you stubborn? Stubborn, you see? Peter was stubborn. He said, I know what's right. I'm going to follow the Lord, and you can follow or not follow. And we read as we go further on that he even says, if they don't accept you, then you are to what? Shake off the sand from your feet and move to the next house. Because it's up to the person to accept Christ. It's not up for us to force Christ on someone. You see his hands pointing? His hands are like this. He accepts us all. He's not forcing us. It's called free will. We have the ability to accept. So Simon is called first, and then he is paired with Andrew, his brother, his partner actually in fishing. For men, well, because we know later on he becomes fishers of men. The next pair is James, the son of Zebedee, and John, his brother. They were also partners with Peter and Andrew. Along with Simon, James, and John formed the inner core of the 12, those first four. Next were mentioned Philip and Bartholomew. Bartholomew is likely the Nathanial in John's Gospel. If this is so, Philip and Bartholomew were the Lord's disciples from the very earliest days. It is possible that Nathaniel was the name by which Bartholomew was used and known in the wider church. Then comes Thomas and Matthew, the tax collector, and they're mentioned. Matthew is certainly the name of the tax collector known by the wider church. Now, tax collectors were not very popular people. They were not popular. I don't know if they're very popular today. I don't know anybody that likes to pay their taxes. They usually wait until the end, like April 14th. I don't see anybody rushing to pay taxes. Now, we know that to pay taxes is important because that buttresses, that helps other things within our government and our society. Then comes James, the son of Alphaeus, and Thaddaeus. They're listed next. Thaddaeus is also called Judas, the son of James. It is possible that Judas was his name and Thaddaeus was his preferred nickname. Finally, Simon the Cananite and Judas Iscariot. The term Cananite is a change from the Aramaic, which is zealots, and I think we'll just skip over that. The 12 are sent out to tour cities and villages and thus expand the Lord's ministry of teaching and healing. The apostolic ministry is not yet, though, universal in scope. Many of us think, I don't think the internet was around then. No, it wasn't. So it was very small, it was very targeted, it was rifled to certain characters and areas. Then it becomes global. But it grows and grows and grows and grows. And you know how the church grows? The church grows from the disciples to us and to other people. You know why people come to church? It's not because of the priest, although I'd love to take credit. It's not because of us. We have nothing to do with it. We are simply instruments. Today I'm here, tomorrow God knows where I could be. The Lord could take me away. St. Demetrius would collapse? No way. Because we do not build our churches on personalities. Someone will come to me and say, do you know what I did for the church? Do you know how important I am to the church? I look at him and I almost want to cringe. Because you know there's a movie, You Don't Know, You Can't Handle the Truth. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie with Jack Nicholson. Sir, you cannot handle the truth because you don't mean anything. Because whether we're here or we're not here, the church will continue. The world will continue. The question is not how much we love others, but how much others love us. How we serve other people. It's not our job to pick up how important we are, how special we are, how educated we are, how successful we are. Even though the world is the one who says that's important. That's a devil's trap. That trap is very dangerous. Very dangerous. One of the greatest things that Satan loves is vanity, is our vanity. So they are sent out and they're asked to go to the lost sheep of Israel. Not to the people necessarily who believe, but to the ones who, there's Jesus here. Who is this guy? So they go there to shake up society, and they shook it up. They shook it up to some point where people didn't even want them. They said, no, get away from us. Get away from us. They are to herald the good news, and the kingdom of heaven draws near. They are able to heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. They're asked to freely receive and freely give, not to expect a payment every time they did something so they could build up big bank accounts, but to serve, because through service we see Christ. That's where we see the Lord, in serving others. You know, the priest usually gets his hand kissed when you greet him, and he blesses you and you kiss his hand. And I have to tell you, the first time that happened to me, I was extremely uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. I said, who am I now that my hand should be kissed? And an elderly woman came up to me because I tried to pull my hand away from her. And she says, no, don't you do that. Don't you do that. She admonished me. Okay. I said, why? I feel uncomfortable. She says, yes, but it's not your hand we kiss. It's the representative of Christ whose hand we kissed. That's the difference. So if we treat all things like that honor is given to us in a humble way, that's the important part. So they go into the villages, they do some tremendous things. They're supposed to say shalom, peace to you when they walk into the house. And if the door is open, come in. If they slam the door, go out, because they're going to lose, not you. It's hard. I remember as a young priest, it was hard when you would serve and serve and serve and try to help people, and then they would look at you and they'd say, I don't even want you. Who wants your Jesus? Who wants your God? Look at my life. I have sickness. I have divorce. My kids don't speak to me. My employer just fired me. All the negatives. But in church we say, for blessings seen and unseen that have been bestowed upon us. I drove today here. I could have been killed on the way here. That's a blessing. Many times we don't see the blessings, we only see the bad. And it's important that we sort of open up and see the good that happens on many, many days. I remember Archbishop Yakov was my spiritual father. My first couple of years in ministry, I said, you know, people are saying things and it's bothering me. He says, I know. He said, the arrows come through, don't they? And they hurt you. Yes, they do. And he said, do they cut you? I said, yes. Do you bleed? I said, yes. He said, good. Good. Because the day will come when you'll see that the frivolous of the world, as it comes to you, you will bounce it off with your hands. The arrows will hit your hands, but they will go side to side. None will touch you, because the Lord is within you. That's the kind of faith that we all have to develop, including myself. So we learn of those apostles. And I will say to you, and I encourage you to continue to read the gospel. As you know, for those of you that are new with us today, we cover the Gospel of Matthew in our first section. Today we dealt with, of course, the calling of the disciples. You want to follow these things, you have study guides. You can go to the website, myocn.net, anywhere in the world. There was a gentleman who came to me yesterday from Philadelphia, and he said, Father, I just want you to know we watch you and we worship with you every Sunday. I looked at him and said, you do? He said, yes, we watch everything you say and do on the internet. So go to myocn.net, tell your children to go there, tell your grandchildren to go there. That's where people are right now. They're on the internet, smartphones and things like that. Let them learn. Finally, I'll just share this with you. It was a Florida court to set an atheist day. In Florida, an atheist created a case against Easter and Passover. He hired an attorney to bring a discrimination case against both Christians and Jews on the observances of their holy days. The argument was that it was unfair that an atheist had no such recognized holiday. Sounds good. The case was brought before the judge. After listening to the passionate presentation by the lawyer, the judge banged his gavel and said, bang, case dismissed. The lawyer immediately stood up and objected to the ruling. Your Honor, how can you possibly dismiss this case? The Christians have Christmas and Easter and others. The Jews have Passover, Yom Kippur, Hanukkah. Yet my client and all the atheists have no such holiday, Your Honor. The judge leaned forward in his chair saying, but you do. Your client, counselor, is woefully ignorant. The lawyer said, Your Honor, we are unaware of any special observance for the holiday for atheists. The judge said, the calendar says April 1st is Fool's Day. Psalm 14:1 states, the fool says in his heart, there is no God. Thus, it is in the opinion of the court that if your client says there is no God, then he is a fool. Therefore, April 1st is his holiday. Court is adjourned. I thought you'd enjoy that. Πάμε στη δοξολογία.
Δόξαντι το φως, δόξαν υψής της Θεού, και πηγής ειρήνη, εν ανθρώπης ευδοχής μας.
Υμνούμε σε, ευλογούμε σε, προσκυνούμε σε, δοξολογούμε σε, ευχαριστούμε σε δια την μεγάλη σου δόξα.
Lord King, Heavenly God, Father,